We're going to be flying out into the Outback next. As we fly over the Outback, one of the things that you're going to notice is that there are a number of lakes. Actually, most of these are dried lakes, salt lakes, soda lakes. Actually, the part of the Outback that we're going to be in does get rain. It gets about a foot or so of rain a year. That's roughly comparable to the amount of rain that you're going to get in the Sonoran Desert in Arizona. The rain tends to come all at once, and those lakes tend to fill up and be populated with birds and even fish. Incidentally, the Mad Max series of movies was filmed in Australia. And that, of course, came from the beginning from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. We're flying into the airport at Uluru, and as you make your final approach to make the landing, Uluru, or Ayers Rock if you prefer the original English name, comes into sight. Ayers Rock was originally covered by the sea. It started out as sediment that was compressed by the heat, and then it buckled up again, and Ayers Rock, or Uluru if you prefer, is one end of that rock that has been pushed up above the surrounding plain. Australian tourism is centered around three things: the road, the rock, and the reef. This is the rock. The rock rises over 1,000 feet above the surrounding plain. That's nearly 3,000 feet above sea level. The Aborigines consider the rock to be sacred, and they discourage climbing Ayers Rock. However, as you can see, it's fairly customary for the Australians to make that climb. Ayers Rock is about 2 miles long, and if you were to walk around the circumference, that'd be about 4 miles or a little bit more. Ayers Rock is made from sandstone, primarily a mineral called feldspar. The natural color of the rock is gray, but as it weathers, it also oxidizes, and the iron content starts turning to rust, and that gives it the red color. From a distance, Ayers Rock is striking because it's this singularity rising out of the plain, and it appears to be a perfectly monolithic rock. But as you look closer, you can see that not all of the rock is entirely uniform. In particular, around the base, I noticed a number of clefts that looked like they'd been weathered out by wind erosion. This part of the rock has been weathered out in such a way so that it looks a little bit like a wave getting ready to break over the surface of the land. As the rock weathers away, we begin to see what appears to be lattice work on the inside of the sandstone. I suspect that Ayers Rock was sacred to the Aborigines not just because it's this singularity rising as a monolith out of the plain, but also because there happens to be pockets of water here. This is Maggie's Spring. It was named after Sir Henry Ayers' daughter. It was discovered, in fact Ayers Rock was discovered by Ernest Giles in 1872. He was the one that named both of these. There are several springs around the rock, and that's one of the reasons why the Aborigines like this area, and they've done a lot of cultural activity here. The whole rock is just full of pictographs, and if you look close you can even figure out what some of them are. This looks like a feather, or maybe it's a leaf. On this next one, look for the snake. He's hard to see, but you might be able to make him out. This is basically a school. The children came here to learn how to read and write. This one happens to be a man. Think of it this way. Aborigines paint from God's view in the heavens. Therefore, a man sitting looks very much like a U shape. Next is a spiral, and this could be either water, think of a stone going into water and radiating out rings, or it could be the spot of a honey ant nest. You remember a second ago I was talking about Maggie Spring, and that Maggie was the daughter of Sir Henry Ayers. Sir Henry Ayers at the time was the Premier of Australia, and he's the guy that sent Ernest Giles, out into the Outback to see what was here. And that's why Giles called this mountain Ayers Rock. The reason that Sir Henry Ayers sent Giles out into the Outback was in fact because of Maggie. Giles was in love with Maggie, and Sir Henry Ayers did not believe it was a proper match. When Giles returned, Maggie was gone back to England. She eventually married and didn't marry Ernest Giles. Next we have a series of photographs that were taken from roughly the same location at sunset, and this is of Ayers Rock. And what happens, as you'll notice over the course of the evening, is that the color of Ayers Rock changes as the sun goes down. Now, as I've suggested earlier, Ayers Rock is often referred to as a monolith. In fact, it's often referred to as the largest monolith in the world, but this is not true. Mount Augustus in the state of Washington is actually 2.5 times larger than Uluru. Uluru's big difference from anything else is that it's a singularity out in the middle of a plain, something that just pops up. Near Ayers Rock, there is another complex of rocks called the Olgas, and the Olgas are actually 650 feet taller than Ayers Rock. The Olgas were actually discovered a few days before Ayers Rock. Of course, the Aborigines discovered both Ayers Rock and the Olgas about 20,000 years before the Europeans did. And they gave the Olgas a different name as well. They call them Katituja, which means many heads. The Olgas are in fact part of the same sedimentary rock that makes up Ayers Rock, but it is less uniform. It's more of a conglomerate with gravel, pebbles, and boulders mixed in with the sand and the mud. And the result is that the Olgas have actually weathered faster. In fact, at one time, the Olgas are believed to have been 10 times the size of Ayers Rock. In fact, Ayers Rock and the Olgas are actually the same rock. The rock actually makes a U shape underground, and those are the two ends that stick up. And the easiest way to get a view of the connection between the two is from the air. This is an aerial view of Ayers Rock. It's one end of that U-shaped stone formation that I told you about. On the horizon here you can see the Olgas, about 30 miles from Uluru. Rock underground that connects the Olgas with Uluru is about 3 kilometers down. From the air, it's even more clear why the locals called this many heads. One thing that you don't see in the Olgas is people climbing the rocks. Here the Aborigines have been much more successful at keeping them off of the rocks. The national park that includes Ayers Rock and the Olgas contains about 1,325 square kilometers. This park is now operated by the Aborigines. Now that we've had a good view of the train, let's take a look at some of the animals that inhabit this area.